Welcome, friends. It's another episode of Unlocked. It's the world's #1 Xbox show, and we're here in the IGN studio. Coming up on this week's show, lots to talk about in the world of Xbox, including Monster Hunter World. It came out late last week, and it has been keeping everybody quite busy. Plus, the Sea of Thieves closed beta has concluded. A bunch of us have spent a good amount of time in there. We'll share some stories from the sea, as well as our experiences. Anthem. Big game getting delayed. We'll tell you when that is now due. Plus another sales milestone for PubG that just keeps racking up the sales. I'm Ryan McCaffrey. You probably recognize me. Miranda Sanchez joining us on a full-time regular basis now.
Surprise!
You
can't get rid of me now.
Get comfortable in that chair.
Yeah, thank
It
you.
belongs to you now. Destin Legary, of course. We love him to death. You can find him still each and every week on Fire Team Chat, so don't miss him over there. Alana Pierce in her usual spot. Always good to have you here as well. Allergy-ridden though you may be, though.
I think it's all three of us.
I
can relate.
felt the sneeze coming, and I'm just suppressing it so
The
hard.
three of us just dying.
It's just must be something in the air. We got enough rain, and now everything's starting to mold up and pollen up.
Bad time of year.
Thuggin Duggan.
What's up?
James Duggan. Good
here.
to see you, my friend.
Your first name isn't Thuggin?
Crazy.
What?
Yeah, this whole time.
I know,
it's
right?
Thuggin.
You learned something new here on
I
the
thought James was a nickname.
Anytime there's a PC game and an Xbox game that cross, which actually may be happening a lot more of.
Yeah.
Play anywhere. I'm here.
Yeah, we happy to have you stopping in this week. We're going to talk a lot of Sea of Thieves. You played the most Sea of Thieves closed beta out of anybody here.
Sunk a lot of hours. The first of many puns for Sea of Thieves. This
Oh no!
Wait, why did you
prepare these?
emphasize hours?
Yeah, I was also confused by that.
No, I sunk.
Yeah,
sunk
I got that
a lot
part.
of hours.
Yeah, you
I just
emphasized
said
hours.
hours.
You really enunciated hours there too.
You know
like
what?
you
I'm
were.
trying with my puns.
But we're gonna do some work with this man, and we'll
Fix your puns up.
We'll shine him up like
Fair enough.
a sunken jewel.
Like a nice
See,
sea boot.
see how that's how it's done, kids.
Okay, we'll
All
see.
right.
What's that?
We'll see.
SEA.
Hey.
Yeah.
I hate us.
Let's.
I'm quitting. I'm sorry.
We'll see you next week here on for another. No, anyway, actually, I want to start before we jump into Sea of Thieves because there's not only our impressions to talk about there, but some news about Sea of Thieves as well. Rumor, but whatever, more or less official news. I want to start with Monster Hunter World, which has just been a phenomenon over the last week, and it's an IP that's been around a while. It's been known, but it's sort of new to Xbox gamers, and I've sort of been watching from afar so far and just been like, man, this looks like people love this. This is a co-op centric experience. Miranda, a ton of experience for you in this so far. And I know, Alana, you've been playing on Xbox as well. Because it weirdly, I don't know if they had a marketing deal with Sony, but
I think they did. A lot of
they
people
just-
thought it was
they-
only on PlayStation.
you'd have thought it was only on PlayStation because they've
Thankfully, it's
narrowed.
not.
Yeah, it's on Xbox as well. So yeah, Cliff's Notes version. What is it, and why is it good, and what do you think of it so far?
A lot of menus.
It is.
No, but it
Go
actually
on.
is. So it's a lot of menus. Of course, like the big objective here is hunting monsters. You've come to this new world. You're chasing this one big monster that went to this new place that has kind of been colonized for a few generations now. And you are here trying to discover what this big new monster is and just kind of helping this society grow essentially and research monsters. And there's a lot to learn. This is my first Monster Hunter. I've always been interested in the series.
Cool.
Yeah, but I never really picked them up just because I didn't want to dedicate that much time to my 3DS, or I had other games I was playing. Like, I was like, oh, I'm playing a bunch of Pokemon right now. I don't really want to invest another 100 hours in something else.
4-player co-op,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yes, but yeah, the big thing about this too is that it's like a very big emphasis on co-op, which I actually haven't tried yet.
I haven't either, but you and I are the only people in the office that I know of playing on Xbox, so we should
Yes.
totally do that. But it's also supposedly very hard to get into the co-op, which is really dumb. Like you have
What,
to
like
start a quest.
matchmaking, or
Yes, like you have to start a quest at the same time, and then one person drops out, and then the other person drops back in, and it's like it's not easy, unfortunately.
Right, like there seems to be places where the hub exists. It's like, hey, you can join a guild, and then these guild people can sit in this one lobby, and then whenever you list a quest, then someone has to join, and then when you're ready, you can go on the quest.
It's oddly complicated.
So yeah, it's like quite a few steps. It's not like a just come live in my world. It's let's meet up in this shared lobby and then go on a quest.
right? Alana, you were very praiseworthy of the art style.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's when you get to this first like sort of hub city that you go to, it's just like I've said this before, but it looks like exactly what I imagined the towns in every fantasy book I've read over the past 20 years to look like. You get there and there's just like people working in like a blacksmith store and they're just like hanging out and being cheeky, and like you walk in there and they're like, get out, we don't have time for you today. And they're just like, they're all like fully fleshed out. There's this really cool lift system. So the initial town that you're in is quite tall, and the lift it's just like the coolest thing ever, but everything's all really, really open. And
LIFT, not LYFT. It's not a marketing tie-in with the
not
ride-sharing company.
car. No, it's a very cool lift. It's just like, it's very dense.
I only barely found that. Like they
I
don't
love
really
it.
introduce a lot of things to you. You just have to find things.
Or
on
they
it.
introduce too many things at once, and you're like,
Yes.
oh boy.
And then you spend a lot of time reading menus of like tutorials, and then you just like kind of start skipping through them a little
You're
bit.
not.
Yeah.
You're
You're
not
like,
helping
oh,
me want to
no.
play
This
this
is one of
game.
those games where I'm like, I need my glasses because the text is really small too, and I'm like, what is
Yeah,
all
it
of
does,
this?
it does take a little work to get really into it, but at the same time, like if you just know game systems, then you're probably a little bit better off. So.
Yeah, there are some things that are odd, but the reason people will like it is anyone who likes grinding in an RPG is going to love this. It's an addictive grind.
Oh, if only Destin were here.
It's like it's almost like an MMO feedback loop, basically. So I always like saying that the real reason that I would ever do sync time into MMOs is just because I want to look cool. Like I don't care about the bad guy. My main objective in an MMO is just to have a real cool set of armor and some nice weapons, and that's entirely what this game is. Also featuring very cool monsters, but it's about like. Certain monsters will give you certain parts that you can then take to the blacksmith to make a set of armor. You might need to kill the same enemy like a certain amount of times so that you have all of the pieces, so you have a matching set. It's just like a lot of grinding. I think the combat is really fun, and there's a lot of different options for play styles. There's a lot of different weapons you can choose from right from the start.
So neat.
What are you playing with?
Hunting horn, which is weird because it's a support item, but I'm playing alone. So
Interesting.
yeah, so I think it makes things a little bit more challenging because the hunting horn leaves you pretty vulnerable. So the hunting horn is this big old horn, and your attacks are notes. So as you attack, like you'll be queuing up songs, and like there's a guide to it too as well on the side of the screen, so that you're not just going in blindly hitting things and hoping something happens. But when you activate your notes and play the song, like it lets out this really big burst of energy that does a lot of damage, but also leaves you vulnerable while you're playing that song.
That's
so
cool.
if you don't have anybody to protect you a little bit, but then you can take a lot of damage. But I've kind of figured a way to do that, but also get out of the way of any oncoming monsters.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm using just like dual blades, basically. I don't know what they're
Okay.
actually called, but I just
Yeah.
have two swords that like let you have like a flurry of attacks, and it's super fun. So it's like I think the combat is super fun. I would really like to be able to play with someone else.
like
I haven't been
super
able to do that.
versatile too.
It is, but
It's
there's
nice.
also, even leading into the monsters that you're trying to hunt, there's like investigations, and people will sort of point you in the right direction. But I mean, there was a moment yesterday where I accidentally killed the wrong monster because I didn't identify the monster correctly, and I felt terrible because it was one that wasn't attacking me. It wasn't hostile.
Oh no.
It was like, I just killed this nice monster that didn't need to die, and I felt so bad. It was like, I'm sorry, friend, let me harvest your things.
That was my,
Get
that
on
was
my
my
way.
resounding feeling from the beta. Even the hunting the big bad monsters in the beta, it was like, I feel empathy for them.
feels
I
a
They're
little
like
bad.
limping
yeah.
away, and you've cut their tail
Right.
off, and they're trying to get back to their
And they're
children
one of a
for
kind,
one
and they're
last
beautiful, and you're
glimpse.
just hunting them down. But
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first time I played at TGS, I was playing with some of the game staff, and they're like, "Oh yeah, so now the monster's gonna run away. It's gonna try to go home and heal, but you need to hunt it down. Like just keep following it." I was
You
just
need
like,
to
"Okay."
get it off before it
Yeah.
can get home to its
Go
kids,
home.
yeah.
and just
But
end
some
it.
of them are really mean too. That's
Yeah.
like one of the first monsters has swallowed another monster,
and
and
it's just
that
like one of the
monster is moving
peaceful-
around inside of it while
circle
it's
of-
like
it's
running
the circle
around.
of life.
So you're trying to like kill this monster while this other thing is still inside of it, and you're just like, I want you to
Can
die.
you cut that
Yeah,
out
so-
and
yeah,
then
so,
kill
like,
that monster too?
You can't, but that was one of the
Brutal.
peaceful ones.
Oh.
No, but
don't
if you
wanna
hit
kill
its stomach, you can like stun it too, because like it's
Yeah.
digest.
Wait a sec.
You can
Yeah.
mess
Aren't,
it up.
aren't there crafting materials from the peaceful like herbivore grazing
Yes.
ones? Yeah, so you gotta kill them.
No.
Circle
Oh,
of life.
The circle.
The-
Cue Elton John.
One of the
circle of
most
industry.
annoyed that I've like ever been, maybe not ever, but one of my boyfriends was there while I was. Said it like I have multiple.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like,
my,
wait,
one
wait.
of my ex-boyfriends,
not blank.
singular, while I was playing Far
One of the
Cry
other
3. I refused to attack any animal in that game that wouldn't hurt me. Just like it, makes it more challenging.
Yeah.
But B, it's like because I have empathy for them, and he just like as a joke hit RB on my controller
Oh, no.
and threw a grenade
grenade.
at a turtle.
Oh yeah,
And I was like,
grenade hunting.
I'm done. Like, we're done today. This is, no. Like, I was so mad about it because I hadn't killed any turtles the whole game. And then I was like, well, okay, it's already
And
dead.
he's an
I
ex-boyfriend
do need a bigger
now.
wallet.
That's why we broke up.
Good reason.
I crashed my car.
Turtle.
But anyway.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
So it
That
almost
is
sounds like this is
disaster.
Monster Hunter World is it sounds like it's kind of like an MMORPG, but for 4 people.
Yeah.
For 1 to 4 people.
Yes. And I do think that some of the systems are a little bit obtuse. So maybe not even obtuse, just hard to learn. And so therefore there is a lot of text.
Yeah.
But that does go away after the first set of
The
apps.
nice thing is that we have a great wiki.
was just gonna say, yeah.
Now, Casey
Segue.
Davis and team have been just working their butts off to
I
make
keep
sure
being
that
like,
we
Casey,
have
go
such-
home. And she's just still there like, monsters.
I talk to her so much. I'm like, Casey, stop working.
This is her
Like, it's
magnum
okay.
opus.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty. This is like her thing. So.
Well, Sam walked over to her the other day and was like, hey, Casey, I think you're spending too much time on this. And she was like, what? He was like, we got to free up the time. And she was like, no.
Going back to what you said about it being kind of an MMORPG for 4 players, I think actually what we're seeing a lot of, and have been for the past 10 years, the conventional MMO has kind of, trended down with the exception of World of Warcraft. But a lot of the motifs have disseminated into other genres.
True.
And stuff like an addicting item grind and stuff like you were saying looking really cool is especially awesome in the context of
hats.
other players.
Yep.
Be like, hey, look at this. This means that I killed this awesome monster and now I look dope. So
Yeah. I weirdly do it in every RPG, though.
even if it's single player?
Yeah.
I just don't even care if it's
Oh, yeah,
single
me
player.
too.
I'm
Oh,
like,
I
I'll
totally
look
get it.
like
Oh yeah, I like
No.
that. Cool. And,
Yeah.
I shamed one of my
Because I'm
friends
thinking
for
about
having bad Dota outfits.
Kingdoms of Amalur, which is like the
Yep.
epitome of a single player
chilling.
MMO. Because
wow, another
yeah.
kingdom. That's like the second one in the
I've
last.
been
Yeah.
talking about
month.
that game a
Yeah.
lot recently. I don't know why, but that is literally a single player MMO, and that they designed it with the intention of making an MMO, and then everything blew up, and that was disastrous.
Yeah, right.
But even in that game, I was like, I need to look incredibly cool. Like, oh, have you seen my chakrams? They like
It's the same
they
thing with
spit
like reorder
electricity.
bonuses. I do not care at all if it's a single player game. However, if it's multiplayer and I can whip out the World of Warcraft Collector's Edition Panda that you had to order in 2004 or something, people are like, "Oh my god!"
No, yeah, I totally get that
Yeah.
though. Like if you have the option to look cool, why not?
Right.
Right?
It's
Yeah,
important.
why not?
It's an important
Exactly.
mechanic
For me.
Looking cool.
Like I almost care more about how I look than what the stats are. So, which is bad.
Okay, I have to find a balance.
I'm just like, no,
Like,
I'll
if
make
it
up
looks
for it with my
bad,
skill. It's
Right.
fine.
Well, yeah, I respect that a lot,
Me
actually.
too.
I have to find somewhere in between, but
Yeah.
that is what ultimately is addictive about it. I don't think that everyone would like this game.
Yeah, absolutely not. Like I've heard actually a lot of people in the office were kind of turned off by it just because I think it is so dense and there is just a lot to learn. And I know people are like, oh, well, we just came off of a bunch of 70 to 100-hour games, like 40-hour games. Like we don't want to invest another 100 hours in something right now.
My biggest complaint is it's quite button mashy. Like my hands get sore after a while pressing the same attack buttons over and over again. But I did want to mention before we move on that I'm playing on the X, and a lot of people have spoken about having performance problems, and I have had none.
Yes.
So that's the performance issues that you're hearing of are probably
People talking
on the
about frame
S
rate
or the
problems
standard.
and
I've absolutely
screen
had those.
tearing. Like obviously I can't speak for everyone. I'm sure like other people on the X have had problems or whatever, but for me I haven't had any frame rate problems whatsoever. So.
yeah, so I'm playing on the original Xbox and I have absolutely had problems. Like
The original
Wow,
Xbox?
how'd you get it to run?
The original-
Capcom's
Duke.
yeah, like the yeah.
It funnily
You need to
enough,
work.
it funnily enough, it has this little like green thing where you move it to select like start or options or whatever at the start, and it absolutely looks like that green goop from the original Xbox startup.
Yeah.
100%. It even moves in that same way. So
That's
every
cool.
time I'm like, whoa, 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 I can't make that noise, but
Yeah.
the startup
fun
noise. You know what I'm
memories.
going
Yeah,
for.
I'm with you. I'm with
Yeah,
you.
I get that though. It's like if they're building these games to be like as big and beautiful as they can, they want to fit it to like the newest system, right? So I understand like it runs a little slower on Xbox One, but
Yeah, this might be one of the first games that's really had that though.
Yeah, I mean that happened a lot quicker than I thought
Yeah.
it would. It's
Yep,
only January, and here we
Yeah.
are with
that upgrade.
and Destin tells me that PubG is like that on Xbox too, where it's it's now at the point where it's pretty acceptable performance wise on the X, but not
that
so
too.
much on the standard
Yeah,
Xbox
it's crazy.
One.
Oh man.
If only there was some kind of console that you could swap out individual pieces of. Maybe some. We'll see.
Yeah,
I don't know. I can't think of
even
anything.
like hook your own display to it, maybe
Yeah,
your own
anything you want.
peripherals.
Yeah.
I
really
shake my head,
customized.
but I was
Yeah.
playing PC last night.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Well, from one adventure to another, Sea of Thieves, the closed beta, has
Yeah.
just concluded. A few of us have spent some time with that. And James Duggan, you've spent the most time with it. We'll each share some stories, I think, from it. I know, Miranda, you haven't had a chance to dive into
Very
the closed
jealous.
beta. Yeah, you're busy with other priorities, other responsibilities, I should say.
Monsters.
But
Some
yeah,
monsters.
some monsters. But the three of us have spent some time in there. Although Alana rejecting my invitation to do the two-person ship last night.
I
as the
wouldn't
beta.
say rejected.
Heartbreaking.
I said my mic doesn't work. And I assure you, playing this game when your microphone doesn't work is a disaster.
Yeah. I know.
There is a really good emote system, but you just have to.
But a few people had this problem, and I think the emote system was not as common. But when I loaded in, when I was playing with John Ryan, who's another person on our wikis team, my inventory and emotes didn't load in. So I was useless, and I didn't have a microphone.
No.
You ended up
So
flagging a potential bug to Joe Neat
I
from
did,
Rare.
yeah. So like I was playing,
I
with,
saw that.
playing with JR, and he's like, well, since you can't talk, I think, why don't you steer the ship and I'll tell you where to go? And I was like, okay, and I just like jump up and down to say yes. And at one point, we get to this island, and so I stop. He anchors. And he's going to get off the island to go fight the skeletons or whatever. And they shoot a cannonball at us. And I'm like, oh, okay, let me shoot one back. And so he's like, oh, you shot that. So he doesn't realize that they shot the first one. He thought that it was just me shooting at the island for no reason. And I had no way to tell him that was wrong. So our ship is sinking. I don't have any buckets and I don't have any wood because I don't have an inventory. And I have no way of contacting him while he goes to this island that and we have like 2 chests inside of our ship.
Yeah.
And so I start just ringing the bell aggressively. I'm just like ringing it and jumping up and down because I can't do anything. And then he's just like, he comes back and he's like, yeah, I'm coming. He's like, oh. Oh, I see.
wow.
And so I go get the chest out of the sinking ship, and then I just have this chest, and we can't do anything with it because we can't get the
No
boat
ship.
back. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah,
like,
talk to the mermaid.
No.
well, we really screwed that up.
Well, yeah.
was a lot of fun, though.
And when you log into Sea of Thieves, it says microphone highly recommended.
Even without it, it is surprisingly fun because
Yeah.
that extra challenge. Like I was laughing the entire time. It was just a complete disaster.
I really want to play drunk the entire time, both in
know you
game and
don't.
out game.
In-game is
both
hard
ways.
to maintain.
Drunk
Go
in
for it.
Yeah, you're.
No, I saw
you're
it.
just
It's
like
really
this
funny.
the whole time.
I was watching so many of those, like they just move on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, that's incredible.
I think one of my favorite things to do with strangers is just to like hang out and just play the accordion, and then people just like come and play around you, and you just
Yeah,
have this like
it's
little
cool.
band
If
going.
you
You're
get
like,
drunk,
Aw.
it starts sounding really bad.
it does.
Which
And,
is hilarious. I actually felt a little like almost sort of Big Brother's watching me because last night when I jumped in solo, like I said, and it spawns you in the bar in the tavern, and so I'm like, oh, okay, well I'm here. Why don't I'm just gonna have a drink before I go, and just to take the edge off a little bit. And I down one tankard. And I'm drunk. I'm like, this is, how do they, it's like they know that I'm a lightweight in real life. What is this?
It's just very strong
But,
beer.
Yeah, the game we would play is we would get on the bow, and since it kind of wobbles you as you're drinking, we would just try and stay on this tiny wooden plank drunk and see who could be on there the longest.
That's
without
very
falling off.
good.
So, but yeah, I'll share my experience later. But James Duggan, you've spent
Yeah.
the most amount of time in the game. You did some great coverage for IGN. Really, what I thought was just a very balanced piece and impressions write-up based on a lot of hours with the beta. If you're watching the video version, obviously you're seeing some just general footage that we've amassed over the last
Nice.
over the last couple of years. But James, yeah, what's your takeaway from this beta?
Well, I really think it's making a wave. It's going to leave a lot of other emergent cooperative games in its wake. And okay.
Oh man,
So I really liked it. I had a ton of fun. I ended up actually having a very poor experience at first. Even just trying to get into the game, I wasn't able to play due to a Microsoft Store bug.
Right.
yeah, bit a lot of people.
Right, which like to
The
be
irony,
expected, it
by the way,
happens.
of the people that pre-ordered through Microsoft being the last
couldn't
people
get it.
able to get into the game
But yeah, they
is not
extended the
lost.
Extended it for a few days.
I know they did.
Sure. And they seemingly fixed it on the second day.
Yeah.
I went back and I played it, and then on the third day it was back, and the workaround was literally to cancel my pre-order, which I did, and it worked.
Very strange.
And I feel so bad for the folks at Rare, just because like, I think there's always this hyperbole like, I'm going to cancel my pre-order. This is unacceptable. But the amount of people that actually do that, however, when the only way to actually play the beta is to literally cancel your pre-order, that's got to suck. you know?
Well, I mean, it is a beta, and they want things to go wrong so they can fix them before the final thing launches. And
I just think my very first and outstanding impression, gameplay aside, is on the PC. This game will be very hurt by not being on Steam or some other platform. The Microsoft Store historically, and Games for Windows Live before that, is a bad, unintuitive, semi-functional platform that you really have to like.
It's so mean. It's historically bad.
It's terrible. I don't get
And
it.
I don't even remember the last time I used it.
I don't either.
I think
it was for some puzzle
I think
game.
it was Dawn of War 2, and I was entering the correct username and password, and it just refused to log me in. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I don't want to play this game anymore.
I had played a bit of the PC version of Quantum Break,
Oh.
and then when I was done, I literally couldn't figure out how to uninstall the like 120 gig
those video
from
files.
all the, and I'm like, I had to Google it. I'm like, how do I get this? Because it was
You
on.
have to go into
yeah,
like
I
your
was just
devices and programs, and
Yeah.
it's so remarkably unintuitive for folks who are seemingly from the outside making not only the Xbox but Windows in and of itself, the operating system that I'm using.
But anyway,
you'd imagine to be
Sea of
Yeah, I was gonna
Thieves.
say, but that said, like at least it is on both.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's not just a console
I spent
exclusive.
maybe 20 hours plus in the beta. I probably spent 4 to 5 hours wrestling with the Microsoft Store. So it's not to be understated.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the game. The game I thought was remarkably fun. It does a fantastic job, like maybe a second to none job, coercing cooperation, inspiring emergent gameplay with the team, coming up with all these really fun things. And a lot of that is through the removal of the HUD. So
Yes,
if-
thank you for bringing that
Right.
up.
Like if you want to know where to go and you're steering, you can't physically like peer over and look at the map without getting off the wheel. But what I could do is I could go down to the hold myself and be like, you need to go southeast. Or I could hold up a clue right in front of your face. Or
Yeah.
And having
I
a person
love
who's
that.
up the top being like, oh, there's a rock here. Like,
exactly.
I love all that
the
stuff.
lookout, like the fact that the mast, unless you're angling it in a certain direction, is right in front of your face when you're steering and you actually need somebody. It's kind of like you're driving blindfolded and someone's like, all right, turn left. Oh, God.
Yeah.
I love that you have to use the environment to navigate. And so, there were last night when I was by myself, I was just having to be like, I was looking at a map and there were 2 treasure points.
Sure.
On sort of 2 small little islands. Oh, hey, look, that's us.
That's your point, actually.
And yeah, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm a little far. Let me reposition because I don't want to be eaten by a shark if I'm bringing a chest. But yeah, I like that it wasn't just follow a stupid Call of Duty waypoint
Absolutely.
to get to the
And that is echoed everywhere. The entire game to me feels like a huge 3-legged race where like you were tied at the hip with the person who was on your ship. Like even that, for an example, like using the cannonball to launch somebody else, you can position the cannon
Yes.
and then climb in and shoot yourself, but you're not going to have that like up to the second aiming that is necessary to land on an enemy ship or an island or whatever. So aside from that, I don't think anything else really spoke to me. There's this amazing, I guess the other thing is just I've tried a lot of like multi-crew vehicle games, and even if we use like Halo analogs, the difference between the Warthog versus the Scorpion. The Warthog, you have somebody driving and you have somebody shooting a gun. It feels really good.
Yeah.
And
The
it's just
Scorpion.
that lazy guy sitting in the passenger seat.
And nobody
Right,
wants to be that guy.
And the Scorpion, you have
It's every guy
somebody
on
driving
Scorpion.
and using the turret, but then somebody shooting like a light machine gun.
Everyone's just sitting on the sides.
Exactly. So like the Warthog feels really good. The Scorpion feels whatever in terms of its kind of cooperative potential.
Yeah.
I've played Guns of Icarus online, which is basically like a proto Sea of Thieves, but it's multiplayer only. And my biggest complaint with those games is like one of the jobs or multiple jobs on the ship always feel like busy work, and you feel like you're not actually doing anything and you're just hammering a thing or whatever. Nothing felt like that for me in Sea of Thieves. The vessel felt alive, like
Yes.
and crewing it with other folks, especially when you get to the galleon, which is really hard to start with. I would start with the 2-person ship and work your way up to the galleon because you have to position 3 sails and it's
Yeah,
huge.
the galleon is
It's
that is-
cumbersome.
It's
It's
a
really
lot.
difficult to turn. But so the vessel experience and the emergence were the huge standout, like big positives for me. And everything else was a little bit less so. I think the biggest problems that I had were with progression and incentive, which is something I kind of end up preaching a lot about in multiple games. But let's start with just the progression, and this will be a very divisive topic because some people will think this is a positive. But it looks as though the progression in Sea of Thieves when it launches will be purely aesthetic, meaning you are not working towards a bigger, better ship. You are not working towards a front-facing cannon. You are not working towards side grades on your ship. From what we can tell, you were working to make your steering wheel a different color, to have socks, to have a hat. And I think that that is not going to grasp a majority of the player base to run voyage after voyage after voyage, especially in the context of the voyages being very, very repetitive. So the Gold Hoarder voyage, which everybody experienced, is you get a map or you get a cryptic clue and you go to that destination, you get treasure, you bring it back. That could be okay if the world was not so insanely empty. I think it would be fine to have a very simple A point and a B point if you were getting sidetracked along the way. And I would get sidetracked. I'd be like, look, a sunken galleon. I'm going to see what's on board. Bananas, nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing on here. Look, a fantastic like stone arch with this really cool fire, and it was super empty. Sometimes you can find a random spawn chest, but the only thing that was detracting me away from the main mission and the final really positive thing I have to say about the game was whenever I decided to engage in PvP, it was really good. It was really visceral. It was really fun. It was very emergent. It was just like you would have your destination be like 200 feet away from the island you're supposed to be, and be like, hey, you see that? Like 2 miles away in that direction, there's an enemy ship. You know, and you turn.
I think
turn
that's
the
kind
wheel.
of the thing with the progression is that if it did have a progression system where you could upgrade your ship, then whoever upgraded that ship first would just
Sure.
destroy everyone.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be vertical progression. I just think it needs some form of mechanical progression. An example being the galleon has 4 broadside cannons. If you could have maybe get rid of all 4 of those and have 2 cannons on one side that fired a chain shot that slowed enemy ships. I think specializing instead of making it just straight up better, instead of having like, hey, I have a flintlock pistol +1 that does more damage than yours. It's like, I have a flintlock pistol that fires 2 shots in a row but takes 3 times as long to reload.
Yeah.
There needs to be some kind of mechanics to keep people engaged, and I feel pretty strongly about that.
Yep.
A lot of folks disagree. Let me know what you think in the
I
comments.
think I
and what you
personally
guys
am
think as well.
totally cool with it being aesthetic, actually. I think I'm totally fine with that. I do agree on the world being empty, though. Like, the one thing that I've said since the alpha is that I wanted the characters, like, at the bar to be voiced and to have characters, or to, like, find weird people to give me side quests who are, like, actual interesting characters that you could come across under that archway or
Some
whatever. That's, like, one thing I
townspeople milling about.
That's what I mean. Is like that's the thing that I want more of, or even like just for some of the islands scattered around to have little. Like I kind of want like the Fallout experience where you stumble across something and then you
Totally.
find a fascinating side quest.
Yep.
And that's basically what I wanted from the open world that isn't there.
Yep.
yeah.
I'm cool with just being aesthetic though. I'm
And
cool
they
with
could
not
do that,
creating stuff.
like getting activations at islands. Like the coolest stuff I found was the chest of 1,000 grogs, and the chest of sorrow. The chest of 1,000 grogs, when you pick it up, you're immediately drunk.
Yeah.
And you have to like get it back to your ship,
Wonderful.
like and it's playing. What do you do with a drunken sailor? And the chest of sorrow, you get on your ship and it starts crying and flooding
Filling
the
the
hole.
hole, yeah.
That's also
And
really
if
cool.
you turn those in and then got some kind of special quest or voyage to go get some kind of special aesthetic thing, like a hat that every so often like starts crying and trickling water down. I think that'd be cool. Or just going to an island and getting something that sends you to another island, like you were saying, like getting like Skyrim syndrome, basically, would be great.
Yeah, no, all very fair, and we'll talk in a minute about some things that appear to be on the horizon for this game. But yeah, I have to say I had a really good time jumping in. I was like, oh, it's the last night of the beta. So I texted you, and your mic chat was broken. So I was like, all right, you know what? I'm just gonna jump in by myself and get a little time with the solo game. And I have to say, I mean, I had more fun playing solo than I expected to after.
People have been saying that.
Yeah.
Me too. I liked it a lot. Actually.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's it's be a thing where it's if friends aren't on or whatever, I can't get a good group going. I'd be like, you know what, I'll still play rather than like I'll play something else. I think it's good. I'd be totally cool with mixing in some solo play from time to time. It wouldn't be the
You come across a galleon though, because I just imagine that if you're solo, you would get destroyed.
I sunk one by myself.
Really?
Yep. Did you have a similar
Wow.
experience?
yeah. Let me. So I
Very good story.
So I take a quest, like I'm like I don't know what level I was, 3 or 4 or something, because I played a little bit
like
in
progression.
the beta. Yeah. So that gives you slightly more extended quests. You know, you get instead of just the 1-part quest. I was on a 3-part quest. So I go to do the first part, and I sail there. You know, I'm on my 1-person ship, and I'm having a good time. Like finally got a good feel for the steering. Like to what you're saying, James, about I love figuring out everything yourself. Like even this may seem completely obvious to everyone, and you're like, well, duh, Ryan, how do you not figure that out right away? But you know, I got a better feel for steering the ship, even including like it finally clicked for me that the handle with the gold bit on it is like your 12 o'clock.
Right,
To like,
right.
So like, and after I figured that out, I was like, oh, now I started steering like 10 times better and more nuanced after that. So I'm on my way.
Did you figure out you could angle your sails to catch the wind?
Yeah, I knew about that from
it took me
previous
forever.
times.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that when you catch the tailwind, like you hear the sails go, poof, and then you go faster. It's awesome. So I'm like, okay, so my quest is to get to some island and then go to, there's a clue. It's in a dimly lit cavern and go 6 paces north by northeast. I'm like, oh, cool. So I'm coming to the island, and it's like late in the afternoon, sun's going down, and I'm sort of just the way I came in. I'm like over sort of on a rocky, not the main port side of it. So I put my little ship dock there, and as I was approaching, I saw another ship, a larger ship, a galleon. I'm like, okay, are these guys gonna screw with me or not? I better proceed cautiously here, because I don't want to go dig up the treasure and then have them just kill me and take my.
So
Take
you
my
were
treasure.
on the island getting the treasure, not dropping it.
Well, I approached and saw them. So I'm
right.
like, okay, let me see. I was like, I went into recon mode. Like, let me figure out what these guys are doing. So I dock, and then like I'm on the land, and I'm literally just hiding I hid behind a rock, and I saw, and their ship started moving, and they were coming towards my ship. I'm like, okay, I think some stuff's about to go down. I'm gonna see. All right, here's how I'm gonna play this. So I dove in the water, and like, I wonder how long I can hold my breath before I have to surface, and like my gamer tag's gonna pop up for them to maybe see. You can swim underwater for a real long time in that game. You can hold not forever, but you can hold your breath for a while. So I'm swimming underwater, and their ship's moving faster than I can swim. But eventually they approach my ship, and I swim up from behind. And we've talked about this before, but I love that Rare has implemented proximity chat into this game. So if you can hear someone near you if they're talking. So and when I'm swimming underwater, and cool effect is you kind of hear like a muffled chat. It's like so then I surface and I can hear, and they're going, okay, let's take his supplies, take the bananas, get any wood planks. I'm like, oh, you guys are gonna pay. So they have no idea I'm there. They have no clue I'm there. I swim up, and one of them dives in the water, and he sees me, and I end up shooting him. They were like, oh, he's underwater. Like, kill him. But then I swim around, climb up on the ship, stabbed, sword fought 2 other ones, killed them before finally the 4th one kills me.
That's pretty great.
And then then you go to I forget the name of it, like the ghost ship or whatever, where you
the
respawn.
Naglfar on whatever the Greek mythology is there. Right.
So I come back, and you respawn on your ship, and either it was presumably either the 4th guy that was still alive is on my ship. where I spawn, and he's like just on my deck, and he doesn't see me. He doesn't see me respawn. So I just came up and just sliced him, and then the rest of them I think had sailed off. And then then I went and dug up my treasure.
There you go. You fought him off.
And I was like, 3 or 4 of them for 1 of me. That's
good.
The perfect way
pretty
to
good
end
odds.
So the ship is like the respawn point too.
Yeah.
So you'll get into this war of attrition for supplies if you don't sink the enemy ship. I had an amazing experience with PvP. I did small ship versus small ship, big ship versus small ship, big ship versus big ship. I had times where I would chase somebody or 2 people chasing me, and I'm able to turn on them and sink both ships. But probably my standout experience that like where I was the real underdog was there was this galleon that was just dogging me. Everywhere I went, it was following me, and I was able to whip a 180. And while it was able to, with the wind, sail faster than I was, I was able to just like do a quick turn, and then I couldn't keep up. And finally, I'm like, all right, I've had enough. I have no treasure. We're just gonna have fun.
Yeah.
And so I set my ship coming at it perpendicular, and then at the very last
you ram
second,
it?
Well, at the very last second, I turn as fast as I can, and I jump off the back to give the impression that I'm still on the ship because it's still turning.
Yeah.
And so 3 of the guys of the 4 on the galleon jump off and chase me, get on my ship. They're looking around or whatever. Meanwhile, I swim under, sneak up the back, and like blunderbuss somebody point blank, and then you hear the proximity. Oh, he's on our ship! He's on our ship! And I go down to their hold to see if they have any treasure. I don't know if my ship's still alive or whatever. They didn't have any treasure, but what they did have was a gunpowder barrel. So I just shot that. The entire bottom of the ship. There's just stuff coming all over, and the ship sinks. And then at this point, my little sloop is doing a coming around full.
Yeah.
And then they jump back onto the sinking galleon. I jump on my ship, and I'm like, all right, see you guys.
That's awesome.
That's
It was
so
very fun.
How do you guys feel about? I've just seen people talking about this on Twitter, and I don't know how I feel about it. The fact that there are no combat-free zones. So like you can go to
like it a
turn your
lot.
treasure in, and you can still get shot in the back. And
Yeah,
the attitude
I've never
amongst the
gotten
community
griefed.
seems to be just kill everyone always.
I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that happened to me. So at the end of the night, and I was completing my 3rd voyage, I had 3 chests on board. So I'm like, I had a little, I had some stakes, even though the beta was getting shut off in 10 minutes anyway. But I saw there was a ship docked at the outpost that I came up to cash in everything, but I could see it was a 1-person ship. So I'm like, okay, I have to assume this guy is hostile. I'm gonna hop off and scout this out before coming ashore with one of the chests, and he was just standing there near the NPCs, and I did a wave, and he did a wave. So I'm like, okay, I think we're. I was like,
Get
no,
out of there,
I
dude.
think we're good.
I've learned from RuneScape. It's not good.
So I went back and I got my chest, and I came back, and he was just running off somewhere else.
Oh, that's great.
And so
It was okay. All right.
So I could see how it would be a problem to have no safe zones, but I kind of like the idea that it's a pirate life. It's
Right.
a pirate world.
Yeah,
and
I think-
you have to always be wary. And, a lot of times you're going to have friends with you.
Yeah.
So
And there's
yeah, I'm
stakes,
okay
too.
with it.
That's
for
a
now.
Especially when you're turning in, you have to think strategically. Like,
Yes.
do I actually want to go here, or do I need to get this ship off my tail first? If it would be totally different if you could always catch an enemy ship, you could always slow down, there was always an attacker advantage, and combat was forced, but it's not. It's actually really inconvenient to get into PvP, and at some point, both parties kind of need to be on board or at least interested in initializing the fight. Like, I was chasing this guy, and we were just going completely parallel to one another. I was not going to catch up. He was not going to turn. And I'm just like, all right, I guess I'll just turn off. So in that sense, I think that it's totally fine. And also, there's definitely some kind of smart matchmaking system. It's not just like a shard. I have to feel that, like, when you are in for a certain amount of time, the game, like some kind of like dynamic AI thing is like, all right, we're going to bring 2 or 3 enemy player ships near you. We'll see how this plays out.
Yeah.
I don't know. So
I think that keeps it
was
interesting,
okay.
though, right? Like, I haven't played,
totally.
but I could see it as like a fun role-playing opportunity. It's like, what if some team just sits on the beach and just like monitors people,
Yeah.
and
Sure.
keeps the peace, or not?
I already saw
There's a
Rare.
lot of really awesome chance.
Yeah, I already saw Rare retweet a couple videos where people got like 80 people on a ship, and they were just out having fun, and just like, yeah. I mean, to me,
That's really cool, actually.
To me, this game, I've been thinking about this for a while. It's like, yeah, it's not as grindy, which for some people is bad. For some people that's a negative. It may not be as deep, but we're going to talk a minute about some of the stuff that does appear to be on the way in the late game for Sea of Thieves. But I think Sea of Thieves has the potential. We don't have the full game yet. I think it's Destiny for dads. That's what I think this game is.
That's funny.
And I mean that
I
not as a
still
pejorative.
so badly want to play with my mom.
I mean that as actually a compliment. Like, it is, you can log on with a couple, with 1, 2, or 3 friends. You can have an evening of do a few voyages, a few quests, and you can log off, and it's not like, oh, dude, you got to get your light level up before the thing resets. And I love it.
Like, I don't want a light level. I don't want an eye level. I just want something other than socks,
Right.
to try and go for. And I think it's so incredibly
Where I was playing
approachable.
with JR, and I just like went down to the bottom of our ship and just took all my characters' clothes off and then went back up just to kind of see what he would do.
And you have
he was,
no mic.
and so he's like, I like it. Sailing in style. And then he went down and took all his clothes off and came back up. And it was just beautiful. I totally see where you're coming from. I think I'm cool with the aesthetics, but it depends how deep it gets.
Yeah.
I think that
You're right
they
in that-
definitely have potential to make that really robust, though, right?
Right. That's
Like,
what I
that's-
mean. Yeah.
But
so much
there's only like one outfit. That
Well,
and
right now, it's like the
unlocked
beta,
full
right?
Admiral's
Like,
outfit.
would they want to show everything they have in the
No,
beta?
they-
I mean, I think people will find the outfit they want the most and go for it. And then I think at that point, the clothing becomes a non-starter for progression.
Yeah, there is definitely a big there's pressure, I think, going to be from the community on Rare to keep the content coming for this game. There's no doubt about that. But a clever group of Redditors did datamine the Sea of Thieves beta, presumably the PC version, because I bet that's easier to have a go at than the Xbox version. And they learned about a few things about what's waiting for us in the full game. Almost certainly can't confirm this 100%, obviously, because they could be things that Rare decided not to do, but it's just vestigial code. So take this with a little bit of a grain of salt. And I guess, spoiler warning, if you maybe don't want to know this stuff, maybe fast forward 5 minutes. But if you're curious, here goes. So the first one I don't really think is a spoiler at all, because
We've seen it.
we've seen it in the marketing material. It's not actually in the game yet, but
Like at E3.
Yeah.
the Kraken
Yes.
with ship wrapping tentacles. So that has been talked about. I cannot wait to see what that encounter. You talk about I wonder if that's going to be kind of the equivalent of a raid in this game,
Perhaps.
or just some sort of boss encounter.
It's a good big event.
Yeah. The final thing that I just want to talk in relation to this about is like, I don't think the combat feels particularly great, especially the sword play. So I'm less excited about the prospect of like a Kraken than I would be like a third ship.
I guess it depends on how they deal with it.
True.
On what happens when you go there. Like, I don't imagine it'll be like a structured boss fight.
Right, it's just going to be
I think it's
like
just gonna be like
hacking and
How do you get away?
shooting
The
at
middle
the
of a
tentacles
storm.
and-
Storms are awesome, by the way.
Going off
The weather's
going
so
off the
good.
edge of the map. I don't want to even say what it is for anyone who hasn't
dope.
seen it. It's so good.
Ooh.
I thought
You
that
just sail
would
right
be
to
where
the edge of the
Kraken was
map.
gonna
Like when I realized what was happening, I was like, oh.
There is a video on IGN
If
and
you wanna see
IGN's
that.
YouTube if you want to see what what happens at
So
the edge
cool.
of the map.
I will check that out after this.
Terrifying.
So the Kraken, and then in this data mine, there are 4 separate maps listed, indicating that we'll be heading beyond that lush Caribbean landscape we've been seeing so far. I'll
Fantastic.
be curious
Yeah,
what that
exciting.
might look like. It could be anything. Could be like maybe like an old
It's
Spanish
stable.
style.
Remember, we decided they're in the same cinematic
Right.
universe, and it wasn't Horizon.
The Xbox, the XCU.
There's the one where you
Yeah.
you sail and then you become a car and it turns into Forza Horizon. That's obviously what it is, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's spoiler. Sorry, folks.
The Microsoft Cinematic Universe.
Ship customization is also going to be something you'll be able to mess around with, swapping out the livery, mast, wheel, and more, as well as the figureheads and cargo. So all cosmetic stuff, to your point earlier.
Yeah, I would bet a cool $100 that this is all going to be cosmetic, and you won't be able to unlock anything mechanical at the launch of the game for your ship unless they change course.
On this show, we bet in and out. Both.
You nailing it again.
Almost
Change
did.
course.
Almost
Is there a
did.
veggie
I
burger
approve.
at In-N-Out? Can I be part of this? There's
No,
a
we just
Don't
have to
lettuce.
take
start
the
with
meat out.
that.
What?
Whatever. I can
Yeah.
just have fries and cheese.
Yeah, there you go.
That's
That's
how Coco now.
yeah.
Don't you start with the In-N-Out should be serving veggie burgers.
I'm not saying that. I actually think what
you
they do
just-
is great.
okay,
I'm
you're
just
just a
wondering if there
vegan
is one.
and okay,
I'm
all
not.
right,
I'm not vegan yet. Here comes the hate in the comments. In-N-Out should stick to its guns. It was fantastic when I was eating meat. Anyway.
And then players can potentially look forward to having some other new instruments as well, upgraded instruments, a strum on the banjo, a ukulele, a fiddle, as well as playing drums and a voice box. So
Oh, that's
you
great.
really could hopefully get like a
band.
like a big band, pirate band
Can't wait
together.
to hear what it's like
old
when
concert.
everybody is drunk.
Just wasted,
Yeah.
completely
vomiting on one another.
out of their mind.
Did you know you can vomit into a bucket?
Yes, and then
Throw it on
Yes,
I
I've
wonder.
had that happen to me.
And I wonder. So what you can do is you can take a bucket, get water in it, and throw it in somebody's hold, and it'll raise. I wonder if you could sink a sloop in vomit.
with vomit,
So I wish I could have tested that out. but I didn't.
IGN.com will be the
figure it out.
we're gonna
That's a fun
make
one
that
to try.
video happen.
I like that. That's good.
That could be great.
Good. Yeah. Big
No,
fan.
not
I don't
could be great. That
Ryan,
will
we
be
still
great.
totally need to do an episode inside of Sea of Thieves.
We're okay. There is a plan
That'd be so
in
good.
the works
Machinima
for
thing?
that I don't want to give away details of, but
Interesting.
we have maybe the right people coming here to help us. with that.
Yes.
So-
I'm familiar with the plan.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
We also actually, I don't know if they'll still be here, but some of the UK team are at Rare right now.
Today.
So if you check out our Instagram story, they've been posting stuff. Like they have like a banjo statue, and it's been really cool for even me to watch like our own
Yeah.
Instagram stories. If you're on Instagram, it's IGN.com because someone else has IGN. So yeah, you can see the stories of like all the stuff that they're showing at Rare. It's really cool.
Yeah, and I presume.
So jealous.
Yeah, I think they're being shown some of the non-beta later game stuff. So we have a lot more Sea of Thieves coverage on the way. And I guess just a final note I want to add on Sea of Thieves because we've been talking for a while here. I was really glad to see that it was like the number 3 streamed game overall on
So fun
Twitch.
to watch.
Oh yeah.
Because
Very fun to
we've
see
been
men play.
chatting this thing up for 2 years, and we believe in it because we got to play it. And we've talked about it a lot. A lot of people are like, I don't know, it looks boring, and it's just nice to see that the community at large is really starting to embrace this game now with the closed beta having been out there and people having seen it and played it. It's gotta feel good for Rare, certainly, that their core idea that they started with, it works.
does.
And
Yeah.
it's just
I mean,
of
it
course,
even feels good for me in a weird way. I don't know if you feel the same. That this is something I played at E3 that I've been so excited for other people to play.
we've
and
been
now-
championing it.
Right, and seeing more people talk about it this week has been like, oh, all these people get to like also play this thing that I like, and it's been really cool. And I imagine that, like you were saying, it's a really good stream game, especially because it's the kind of game where it's really easy for people to tell you what to do in a chat, and that was what a lot of people that I was watching were doing, like being like, oh, go do this, oh, shoot this person, and they were just like the chat was deciding what they were doing, and I hope that it maintains that steam.
Yep.
Yeah.
And crossplay was great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which I was after I got through the Microsoft Store, which you've heard all about at this point. I couldn't tell who was playing on Xbox. I couldn't tell who was playing on PC, and that should be the goal.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
Yeah, good stuff. So again, no open beta has been announced, and I don't have any insider knowledge in this particular
Oh,
case.
they'll have one.
But it's inevitable that they're going to want to try and break the game
Yeah.
before the launch.
It would
so as-
suck if what happened with this beta happened.
Exactly. So I would personally expect an open beta. It may even just be the same content. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily get my hopes up for new content more than what we've already seen, but I got to figure that's going to be in the next 30 days.
I think so too.
Nice.
If I had to
Exciting.
guess.
I wanna
I'm
play.
actually really looking forward to playing again.
30 to 45 days, I guess. But so keep an eye out for much more Sea of Thieves.
Such a fun episode that we just get to like excitedly talk about it finally, like because it's not under NDA now either. Like I'm so excited for it
it's
to come
gonna
out
be-
and for our entire show to be just Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, when we
Sea
can
of Thieves
do the
HD.
show
Yeah.
in the game, that's when
Yeah.
that's when
It'll be great.
that's when it's going to be out. Let's
Pirate
write,
Team chat.
Ooh.
let's write an unlocked theme song using the instruments in the game.
I feel like we don't have the talent to do that,
Exactly.
but we
though.
have an
That's why
exciting community who might.
if we write a drunken
That's pretty good.
shanty,
Sure.
Yeah.
be great as our unlocked theme song. All right. Video games, more video games. Anthem, which has been highly anticipated since its E3 debut for a lot of folks. I'm gonna just everybody just maybe hang on to something so you don't fall out of your chair. It's been delayed to 2019.
I think I predicted this. I think
So
this
this
was one
is
of my
funny
predictions.
because Destin was the one who argued against it. He was like, "It's coming out this year. It's definitely coming out this year."
No way.
We were like, "No, it's not."
Like, come on. You saw what happened with Mass Effect. They're going to delay it. There's no way they're going to like risk anything being wrong with this. Like, they have to.
They were
wait.
so vague about it.
Also,
This
it's
is
a
the only
pseudo
footage we've
MMO.
ever seen.
Yeah.
It's the highest resource investment of any genre, I would say, period.
Man, it looks so pretty.
And also coming off the heels of Destiny 2 screwing up so incredibly bad and finally starting to kind of retrace its steps where the end game is concerned and like its hardcore community is concerned, I have to imagine they're kind of re-examining their own model,
they're,
their
like,
own
taking
progression.
notes.
Especially
notes.
after the Battlefront 2 microtransaction
Yeah, a lot of-
situation. There's a
lot of
lot to
current
take stock
events,
of,
right.
which is exactly what there was an initial report. I want to give credit where credit's due. Kotaku dug into this and found some sources.
Was
that
it Schreier?
Probably. I don't know. Actually, I didn't see the actual story, just the reports of it citing them. And EA later in the week before we got on the air here confirmed that the game is 2019. So
Not at all surprised.
I mean,
Better
it's,
late than too early and busted.
Just
Yeah.
please take all the time you need.
Yep.
Make this right.
Absolutely.
I want to love this.
If there's
would
if there's
prefer
a
a
common
delayed
theme
game.
in
Go ahead.
MMOs, it's that literally all of them, and I'm not saying this is an MMO, I know the marketing terminology here is shared world shooter, but there's so many echoed motifs here. The common theme is they release in a poor state, and then 2 or 3 years later, they're at a cool place, but the community has moved on.
Right.
And I'm already at that place of apathy with Destiny 2, where
Oh
they're
yeah,
like,
me too. Like I was
"They did
super into
these
it,
raid
and now I'm
revamps,
just. I
and
didn't even get to do the
there's
raid layer.
this and
Yeah.
that." I did the raid layer, and that was it. And now I'm looking at all these things that I wish were in launch, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you've lost me at
I
this
mean,
point.
that's
And
even
it's not
possible
even-
for Sea of Thieves,
yeah.
right? Like,
Could
there
happen.
could not be enough content
Totally.
on launch, and then they keep adding it, which I think is like. I get it that they keep being able to support something, but especially with the case of Anthem, I think that you need to learn from Destiny, and I think it will help Destiny to actually have the competition
Also,
as well.
just for other
100%.
games too. Like with Destiny's holiday event, I was so disappointed that it was so hard to kind of get that seasonal bundle that they had. And like other games, like even Call of Duty has like a weekly free drop of their new seasonal bundle. Like when they have an event, they give you one for free every week, not just for the first time you sign in and make you work for all the rest.
Yeah.
And like I know they had opportunities to get, like grind for it daily, but it's just it felt a little
There's
weird.
this
Yeah.
opportunistic kind of predatory thing that happens with limited time events, and I think it all kind of started with League of Legends, like the Snowdown, which is their Christmas event.
So fun.
Was like, hey, get in here, get these skins, they'll never be around again. And that creates this urgency on the consumer's end to be like, oh, I gotta spend, I gotta buy it all. I'm not grinding
Go
enough to
Hank
like,
Hill there again.
whoa, Bobby,
Damn it, Bobby.
bring me my credit card and I gotta buy Severe.
right
Oh,
now.
Big
she
League
looks
of
so
Legends
good.
fan, Hank Hill.
Yeah,
Is there a
I,
propane class?
I initially liked that. I hate that now. I hate that resources are devoted to that. I understand it's like a very high-grossing, high-return thing, but I would much prefer that content be going, or that those resources be going towards some type of better content
I
instead of the
disagree.
same content
Completely.
with a holiday theme. Like all that Iron Banner is normal PvP with a limited time to earn these aesthetic rewards.
So the problem is, like, I don't think Destiny does these events right, is what I'm coming back to. Because, like, Call of Duty is doing one right now. They're doing their second community event. And it's cool. It's like, here's a new bundle chest that you can get. Like I said, you sign in once a week and you get a free one. We have double XP event, just maps and stuff. And they have, like, these different things that they cycle out. And they have a special mode. And, like, it's just nice to feel like that they're paying attention to the community and celebrating that, and not necessarily saying, hey, spend a bunch of money to get this one thing and it's really hard to get it unless you spend a bunch of money, which is what Destiny
that's like
did.
Overwatch's post-launch content in a nutshell. If there's one thing, if we made a pie chart of all of the post-launch support they've given to Overwatch, the vast majority of that support, even though they've done some fantastic things here and there, like a lot of it comes down to seasonal events.
The thing is, it
I
has
just
to be
don't want
both.
that to be the primary
Right.
content.
No,
that's
that's the
coming
thing,
out
yes.
post-launch.
You know, I think that kind of primary content in terms of events really appeals to people who hardcore play that one game.
Yeah.
Like, because, like, I'm thinking the MMO that I inexplicably put the most time into was Neverwinter. And whenever there was, like, a winter event, I'd be like, hell yeah, there's all these, like, things that they had, like, the ski event. Like, there was all this cool stuff that you could do that I was like, I'm so stoked to be able to get into this because it was a game that I played a lot of. Whereas I think for people who play a lot of games, it's annoying. But for people who are, like, hardcore fans of that
it's-
one
I would disagree wholeheartedly. I think
I
like
was stoked about Neverwinter's
World of Warcraft does these seasonal events, but their primary content is additional quest content, additional group PvE content, additional raid content. This is the mechanical, like hardcore kind of stuff that I think like the dedicated player base wants to dig into and see more of, as opposed to here's this lighthearted seasonal thing that is not going to really engage anything you've learned
The problem
about
is
playing
that
the
you've
game.
got to do both. And
Yeah, I think
Destiny's
you're
not
probably
doing
right.
that.
Yeah.
Is the
Yeah.
reason. Like, that's why I was falling back on Call of
Sure.
Duty. It's like they're doing it correctly. Like, they're introducing a new mode every time they have a community event, and special playlists and special new maps and everything that's accessible to new people, and like making a good event. Like, they introduced a new character class essentially. And so it's like, hey, let's celebrate all this and like bundle it together.
That's
and be
really cool.
Yes,
I totally
exactly.
agree. I agree with that.
Which is
And
where I
you-
was saying Destiny is doing it incorrectly.
Yeah, and you have to imagine that this exact kind of conversation, except probably with some more business terms and
right.
numbers and pie charts thrown in, are happening at EA and at BioWare. And that is, you know, plus I actually think the delay probably that's like icing on the delay cake, because I like you touched on a minute ago at the beginning of the conversation, James, is the games like this take a long time to build.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a difficult process to build a game. I mean, it's tough to build any game. I've never done it, but just from watching it in my career, games are hard, and these kinds of games are especially hard. So yeah, I mean, I'm not at all surprised that Anthem is pushed to 2019. And guess what? As usual, that's fine, because we'll have plenty of other games in 2018
Totally
to
agree.
play.
Yes.
No big deal.
It's like, please take all the time you need to
right.
make the game you want to make.
Yeah.
That's all I could wish for.
It's crazy to think that World of Warcraft started development in 1999.
Whoa.
Maybe even like conceptually in 1996.
yeah. Like
Think about
basically
what was
10
happening
years.
in 1999,
was
like
a baby.
Titanic.
Well, and
Saving Private Ryan.
EverQuest was out.
Yeah,
that
right.
was sort of the model at that point.
And
That's
and
crazy.
it took 5 or 6 years of very intense development to get to a like barely functional state to launch from and then build upon.
2004,
So
yeah.
these kinds of games are massive.
Yeah, and it's and really my thing too is
MMO.
when I saw people reacting to the Anthem delay on Twitter, my response was just like, well, the secret was never believing their fall 2018 date in the first
Yeah,
place.
they said that was just like,
There's-
come on.
The further out a given date or window is, the more likely it's going to get delayed. It's just
It's
that's
also
just
like
how it works.
from an industry perspective, it's always, do I know anyone who has played any version of this?
Right.
No, it's
No.
not coming out this
Yeah,
year.
and the thing is, and I get it, like I'm sure EA they just have to put some kind of window out there for investors. You know, it's like this is our major BioWare project, which we'll have to announce. Like it's, they have to put something out there, even though that date changes.
But because of the Mass Effect Andromeda stuff, and you're right, in the Battlefront 2 stuff, this game especially needs to be good. People are excited about it, despite everyone hating everything EA does. So they're like, okay, we need to not screw
there's
this up.
a lot riding on Anthem. I mean, arguably this may be, I say this may be a bit of a grandiose statement, but maybe not. I think arguably the future of BioWare.
I totally agree.
Rides on Anthem.
I 100% agree. And there's this whole movement in the community. It's this meme taken from Modern Warfare 2, or maybe it's just the original Modern Warfare, the no Russian scene, and it's remember.
That's two, yeah.
No pre-orders. And I think there are a couple of reasons for this. And that's because this type of game is one that you need to deliberate about for weeks and weeks and play and experience all the various nuances, the end game progression, the reward loop, the community. There's so many variables. And subscribing to pre-order culture with a game like Anthem, I think, sets the bar remarkably high for you to be disappointed. I feel the same way about Destiny. I feel the same way about a couple other games. I think that there are some safe pre-orders out there. But and a lot of people go into those like marketing things and I get this cool aesthetic thing that's exclusive, whatever.
Yeah, you just got done talking about how you get Snickers.
I do. I'll probably go back on my word and pre-order this, and I'll get a lot of hate for it on Twitter. But
pre-order culture is an interesting one though, because I used to pre-order every single game that I would buy every year.
Entirely. We don't have time for it today.
Me too. Different life.
But I wanted to talk about some other EA news. They did also, EA confirmed a Battlefield game for 2018, which we had certainly
so many
assumed.
surprises.
I know, right?
What?
Just keep those seatbelts tightened and, just the seat back upright and the whole thing. Exactly. So what I actually want to pose to you guys is, what do you think the Battlefield game will be? So we had, of course, 4 head into... in the modern era, head into Hardline, which was,
my joke was going to be, it's definitely going to be Hardline 2. It's not.
And then we saw Battlefield 1 in World War I and Call of Duty going to World War II. So where does Battlefield go this year?
I think there are 2 places. I think it's either World War II or it's modern. I would love to see it return to 2142. And that is a sentiment that will not be echoed by anybody in the community because they hate future sci-fi games, but 2142 was so good. There were these massive titans, and like the capture point shot missiles, and you had to jump on the titan and plant a bomb and jump off. Anyway, it came with a lot of cool like gameplay connotations. But I think like what I would like to see from the new Battlefield and what Battlefield 1 taught me is that modern military shooters are maybe not the best historic setting from a gameplay perspective. Battlefield 1, the classes are a lot more narrow in terms of what they can do.
Focus.
You really have to pick a role, and the limited scope of the weaponry of that era really lends itself
technology
to that.
limitations.
Yeah, so I would love something World War II or even earlier just to stick with that motif. Also not having helicopters that are able to hover and just destroy you. Like the best Battlefield players are helicopter pilots who have sunk thousands of hours in every one, and you stand no chance.
Yeah. I mean, we can apply this conversation later to Call of Duty for Treyarch's game this year as well. But yeah, Miranda, what do you think? Where do you think Battlefield goes, or when, I suppose, do you think Battlefield goes?
I don't think they'd want to do World War II. I'd be really surprised if they did, just because Call of Duty did. I'm sure they probably somehow know wires crossed somewhere.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want them to retread that just because it has been done so recently, even though they're very different games. Like, let's make that very clear. They're super different.
It would still be weird for that to happen.
But yeah, it would be weird. We have a few listed. I think Vietnam would be cool.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I don't know what I want. I think they will do. I know that I want Vietnam, 1942, or Bad Company 3.
Yeah.
Bad Company 3 mostly.
Yeah, I actually think it's funny you're saying exactly the what you don't think or don't want is actually where I think could very well happen. Dan Stapleton and I did a little thought exercise when this came up yesterday, and checked Google Trends for the last several Battlefields and Call of Duties. Battlefield 1 spike on Google Trends. People searching. Same thing with Call of Duty World War II. I think Battlefield 1 was their most critically and commercially successful Battlefield in a while.
Wonderful.
So I think they might go not with a remake per se, but I think they might make Battlefield 1942, but just a new game that is
love
called.
What do they
42 so
what do they
much.
call it?
Same thing.
Battlefield?
No, I think it would be called
1942.
Battlefield 1942,
They did that
but
with
just
Battlefront
be
too.
a new game, a new interpretation, and not be tied
Battlefield 1
to the original.
There's plenty of stories to tell in that setting.
I would want it to
Plenty.
be tied to the original, but I'm not a remake.
Yeah.
But I would want it to have things in common. I love that game.
As long as it's set in the same setting, it's going to have some kind of loose tie-in. But
Yeah.
I agree. I think the historical setting is the place for Battlefield. That's just my. There are a lot of people who still play Battlefield 4 and prefer it over Battlefield 1, and I don't necessarily agree with that. But hey, differing opinions.
All right. We are running out of time quickly. We've been chatting it up for a while here. You're a very chatty group, and I like that.
Sea of Thieves. So
I know, right? So just some quick notes. Pardon me. PubG is up to 4 million players on Xbox, which and by the way, to celebrate, PubG is giving Xbox One players 30,000 free battle points, which can be used to purchase cosmetic loot boxes for those of you who like
That's really
the cosmetic stuff.
Yeah.
Anyone who has purchased or does purchase PubG on Xbox One and has created a character before today, the 31st, will receive the bonus. So that is something to take note of if you have not already. And just a quick note, my observation of this is, I mean, this is far and away Microsoft's biggest console exclusive, like sales-wise, in a while. I mean, Halo, I'm sure got to 4 million, but that's 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't quite know how much Gears of War 4 sold, but that's 2 years ago. Like it's been a while since Microsoft has had a big console exclusive hit. So I'll tell you, between this and we talked earlier about how huge the interest in Sea of Thieves has been with everybody watching it on Twitch, some big wins for Microsoft
absolutely.
this week, following up, of course, on the big hardware win in the fall of the Xbox One X. And one last note, just because I know, Alana, you and I specifically, we adore this game so much. South Park: The Stick of Truth. There is an Xbox One version now, and it's out next, or I should, pardon me, 2 weeks, February 13th, for $30, which
great game. Totally
it's-
worth $30. Also quite long.
it's so good.
Yeah.
About 12. Took me about 12 hours.
Yeah,
or
that
so.
sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So boy, if you haven't played it, can't recommend it.
If you like South
enough.
Park, it is an extended interactive South Park episode. It's great.
It's more like a season. It's like a playable season because it's 12 hours.
Weirdly enough, I went to finish the Fractured Butthole recently.
Every time. The Trey win.
I can't. It was one of the games that I downloaded on the X after having on Xbox One, and I can't play it. It says that there's some kind of Stick of Truth content missing, so I'm not able to access my save file. It's really weird. I'm sure I could just Google
feel
it.
like
but
I've
it's
seen that
You
error
probably
before.
have to re-download.
I don't know. It's super weird. I'm like,
seen
well,
that
do I just
happen.
need to plug my Xbox One back in?
I'm sure somebody
I've seen
will
that happen before.
tweet you after this episode goes up
Yeah.
with a solution.
Super
So
weird.
quickly, what is out that we can spend money on this week, Alana? before we hit
February
the
games
road?
with gold. We have Shadow Warrior February 1 to 28 on Xbox One, which is actually surprisingly fun.
Yeah, that game's fun as heck.
Yeah. Assassin's Creed Chronicles India, February 16 to March 15 on Xbox One. Less fun. Split Second, February 1 to 15, Xbox One.
Underrated arcade
60,
racing
I agree.
game.
And then Crazy Taxi, February 16 to February 28th, Xbox One and Xbox 360.
Yeah.
Not as good as the GameCube version.
I don't think the Offspring song is in that version because of licensing.
Yes,
if I
that's
remember
the Xbox version is the one that a bunch of the songs are removed.
Ouch.
Oh man.
Bummer. It's free though.
And then games out this week, we have Railway Empire, January 30.
Get your train on.
That's Xbox One X Enhanced.
No, not the band.
Semblance, January
Shout out to
30th.
Pat
This
Monahan.
one actually sounds really cool to me. It's a psychological thriller. It's sort of like the Twilight Zone, so I'm really sold on that.
Which one?
A Semblance,
Okay.
January 30th. Wolverblade, that's a cool name. January 31st, side-scrolling beat 'em up.
We took Wolverine and made all of his bones blades instead of just the
They kind of
claws.
already are. All of his bones are adamantium. Anyway,
My entire body is made of blade bones. It really hurts. Someone help me.
classic Wolverine voice. EA Sports.
I
UFC
have
3.
healing factors, so I can't die. Help me.
That actually is a thing that happens in the
Oh,
comics.
God.
That's true. Well, one of my favorite ever Wolverine scenes is in it's Civil War actually, and it talks about he's a part of the explosion that starts Civil War, and he's speaking through his body being rebuilt after being in an explosion that has torn all of his flesh off. It's messed up, but
Yeah.
very good series of panels. Anyway, EA Sports UFC 3 February 2nd, Xbox One X Enhanced. Also, And Nightmares from the Deep 3, Davy Jones, is February 2nd.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I didn't know that there was 2 other of those, but here we are.
So let's do trivia real fast because we do have to go. There is another video shoot that needs to get in here, but I say make them wait. This is gold we're putting
Yeah,
out here.
Dan. Suck it.
Sorry, everybody.
So
Oh.
the question is really, it's for you, Alana. Since we're sort of, we're changing things up for Unlocked here a little bit. Do we start over?
No.
No? You want your
No, I
2-point
think it's
lead?
fine.
You're good?
I was
I
on
worked
the
hard
first
for
one,
those
right?
2-point leads.
All right. Well, then we will continue as is.
pretty
Alana in the lead with 2 points, basically,
Thank
to
you.
start the year. And we hear now from Kelly in Quebec City, who asks, in which of these Xbox 360 games can you watch animated shorts from Popeye the Sailor? The old Popeye cartoon. There are shorts that you can actually watch in this game. Was it The Darkness, Damnation, Enemy Front, or Quantum Theory? This one I knew.
I know the answer to this.
You got this one? Okay, so I'm gonna go to
I want to
Miranda.
go first.
That's not
Well,
how
no,
this
that's not
works,
how-
No,
Miranda.
I'm new. You can go to me last.
I definitely know the
You
answer.
want me to go to James Duggan first?
Yes.
All right, James Duggan.
I've been
you-
extremely educated.
know the
I've played literally none of these games. But I will go out on a limb and go with answer A, The Darkness.
okay, you're going with The Darkness.
That's what I was
Miranda.
gonna go with.
You're gonna
but
go
even
with
though
that
I
as
usually
well?
go with C. I don't know what enemy front is, so I'm gonna go with Darkness because I
Go
know
to
what
The
that is.
Darkness.
I know.
It is indeed the darkness.
It is
knew
indeed
it.
The
I
Darkness.
knew it.
Everybody on
Points
the
for
board.
everybody.
I had a
Yeah.
feeling because I remember like watching some gameplay from it, and I thought that was what I saw, and I was like, that's so weird.
It's
Why do you
like
say that?
not super prevalent in that game. I didn't
Yeah.
like that game, but I don't remember
Oh, it's
why.
really good.
Well, I keep thinking
It's Starbreeze,
that's
man.
one of those games that I played when I was pretty young and didn't have critical thinking developed. So I always think that I should go back and play it. I don't know why I didn't like it.
Yeah, it's that was their
But I remember
post. That was their post Riddick game.
Yeah,
And of
which
course,
Riddick's great.
Riddick's top
One
probably
of the best.
5 original Xbox
I agree
games.
completely. Yeah.
Yeah, The Darkness, excellent stuff. From and yeah, it was. They had a bunch of basically. What's this? I've completely blanked out on the term where it's like Amazing Grace, where it's like royalty free, public domain.
Public
That's
domain.
it. Public domain stuff.
Popeye Public Domain.
That's on the TVs in the game that you can actually sit there and
Vintage.
watch stuff. So there you go. Thank you, Kelly from Quebec City,
Thank you,
for that
Kelly.
outstanding question. If you want to play along and quiz the panel, please send your Xbox trivia question to unlocked@ign.com. And please include 4 multiple choice answers and note the correct answer in your email.
So glad.
Time to go. It's lunchtime for us, and whichever video shoot is coming in next, we've already made all the magic. There's none left for you in the studio. We've taken it all. But Miranda Sanchez, what are you up to on IGN? Where can we find you? Say hello.
I have a lot of projects going on right now, but none that I really want to talk about
That's
because
totally
I
okay.
need to organize my brain still.
Fair enough.
But you can find me pretty much everywhere at Havoc Grows, and it's Havoc with a K. And I'm very
Like
happy
the
to be
physics simulator.
Yeah.
Nice. Havoc with a kid.
here. Wasn't
James
able to do
Duggan.
that.
I'm working on 2 games, Sea of Thieves and Hunt Showdown. I have very positive things to say
I
about
want
Hunt
to play
Showdown,
that.
despite it being kind of buggy, but I'm used to that with early access survival games. You can find me at Thugganduggan, THUGGNDUGGN on Twitter, and that's about it for me.
Excellent. Yeah, no word on whether Hunt Showdown's coming to Xbox or not.
Gosh,
It
I
is-
hope
should.
so.
It should, you're right.
Yeah.
But for now, it's just a PC release. But yeah, the premise of that, man, it's like, it's PubG, but with giant hideous monsters and little teams of 2.
It's very It's a very
cool.
clever defiance of the battle royale cliche, and I imagine there will be an article on IGN at some point that says how Hunt Showdown saved Crytek, but we'll cross
Yeah.
that bridge.
It's
It's
set in the
Crytek?
bayou, like the
Crytek.
swamps,
Yeah.
right, of Louisiana.
That's
This-
super interesting.
Does a spider hiss?
Spider hisses.
Oh, God.
In fact,
What the
that's
hell, Miranda?
the best way to figure out where the spider is.
What the
Instead of
hell?
following the clues, if you hear the hissing, then you just circumvent the whole clue
like it when they
process and like,
hiss.
I'm gonna get this guy.
Well, I can never play it. Ryan and I will be in our corner not playing that
And
game.
that's
ever.
only
I'll
one
take
of
it
a
on.
bunch of different monsters.
To
and
Sea of
bosses, so-
but maybe they could mod it and make it like a pony, and then I would be
be.
fine.
I saw some.
Hissing pony?
Yeah,
There's some
good goat.
breed of rabbit somewhere in the world where it's giant rabbits.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I saw it's like a retweeted thing that was going around yesterday. So
Follow one of those
turn,
on Instagram.
Yeah, turn it into a giant bunny
rabbit.
rabbit.
Sure.
Cool
That
with
would be awesome.
Yeah.
Do you want to
Alana?
shoot that?
Yeah.
It's a trade-off.
If it
Double-edged
hisses
sword.
at me,
Well,
sure.
that's true. It's a hissing
Yeah.
bunny.
I'm currently working on another feature about Metal Gear Survive and a really cool Black Panther cosplay thing that I'm putting together for that movie coming out that I'm very excited about. But also, on the side, Marty and I are starting a podcast together. So the first episode of that will be available February 14th. I'll tell you more next week. Pretty excited about it.
Good stuff. We got a wonderfully written developer column from Bill Gardner. He was the one of the lead developers on his most recent game, Perception, which was where you played the blind girl in the sort of scary house. And then before that, he was at Irrational. He was one of the lead designers on BioShock Infinite. He wrote a column for us because when we were all talking about the Xbox Game Pass news last week of like, wow, this looks great for gamers, he has a very different perspective as not only a developer, but an indie developer. So I really, really encourage everybody to read that column on IGN. It is, it will give you a different perspective and a different insight into, what Game Pass could mean for the future of games. He's not hating on it, but he's giving you like, hey, this is something that developers are thinking about and what it could mean for us. So check that out. And then the new Unfiltered is up. It's with somebody who's never made an Xbox game, but I really think it's one of the most interesting episodes yet. It is Genova Chen, the creator of Journey, the co-founder of that game company. Boy, I learned a lot about him in that interview and some of the personal and professional things he went through during the creation of Journey and what he's trying to do now with Sky, which is his new Journey follow-up. So would really love it if everybody would check that out. And you can find me on Twitter at DMC_Ryan. Time to hit the road. I want to thank the panel here. It's been a great episode 331. We will unfortunately not be playing Sea of Thieves since the beta is over, but we got
Soon.
a whole bunch of other games
Monster
to play.
Hunter.
Monster Hunter and Celeste and
Celeste is so good.
oh yes, I guess we can say now that we gave it a 10 out of 10.
It's fantastic.
Please go read the review or watch the video review. The game's incredible. So much to play, and it's only January. It's going to be a great year for Xbox. Stay tuned for another episode of Unlocked this time next week.